Official documents, they're not exactly known for being page turners, right? They're usually pretty dry. But buried inside this one, EASA AD 25020, is actually a fascinating detective story. Seriously. It's a story about a hidden flaw, a potential danger, and this massive global effort that keeps us all safe when we fly. So let's dive in, follow the clues, and see what this is all about. Okay, so first things first. What even is an airworthiness directive, or an AD for short? You might hear about them in the news sometimes, and it turns out they are one of the most critical, most powerful safety tools in the entire world of aviation. To put it simply, an AD is a mandatory order. It's not a suggestion, it's not a friendly piece of advice. When a big authority like EASA in Europe or the FAA here in the US finds a safety issue with a plane or one of its parts, they issue an AD. It is a legally binding rule that says you absolutely must fix this. Now, this is the AD at the heart of our story. The authority is EASA, and the subject seems really specific, right? The Nose Landing Gear Retraction Actuator. But here's the kicker. This directive applies to the entire Airbus A330 and A340 families. That's a huge fleet of wide-body jets flying all over the planet. So we've got our subject, but what was the problem? What was this unsafe condition that got the ball rolling on this whole investigation? This is where our detective story really starts to get interesting. The official term is undamped nose landing gear extension. Okay, that sounds pretty technical, but what does it mean in plain English? Well, think about a screen door with one of those little hydraulic arms that makes it close gently. Now, imagine that arm breaks. The door doesn't close gently anymore, it just slams shut. That's basically what could happen here. The landing gear could drop down without anything to slow it, slamming into place with incredible force. And this quote, pulled directly from the AD, shows you exactly what's at stake. This isn't just about a loud noise. A landing gear slamming down like that could seriously damage the gear itself, or even the structure of the plane. The worst-case scenario? A full landing gear collapse. The consequences are, well, they're incredibly serious. Okay, so knowing what was happening is just step one for the investigators. The next absolutely crucial question was why. They had to dig deep and trace this problem all the way back to its source. And here it is, the culprit. After a really thorough investigation, the engineers pinpointed the root cause. It all came down to a maintenance process called swaging. And what's really important here is that this wasn't a flaw from the factory, it was an issue that was popping up during routine overhauls. So what on earth is swaging? Well, it's just a way of shaping metal. But the best way to think about it for our story is to picture crimping an electrical connector onto a wire. You squeeze it to make sure it's got a super tight, secure grip. In this landing gear part, swaging is what locks a critical bearing into place. If that swage is done poorly or not at all, the bearing can work itself loose and the whole system can fail. So once the flaw was found, EASA couldn't just publish a paper and call it a day. They had to issue a clear, actionable plan to get this fixed on every single affected plane across the entire globe. And the solution laid out in the ad is this really clear three-step process. First, inspect. Every single one of the parts that could possibly be affected has to be checked. Second, correct. If an inspector finds anything wrong, any little discrepancy, that part gets replaced immediately. Before the next flight, no exceptions. And third, prohibit. From now on, it is illegal to install any of these known affected parts on any aircraft, period. It's a three-pronged attack that completely walls off the problem. Now get this. This number gives you a real sense of the scale of this whole operation. Airlines are given a 26-month window to get all of these inspections done. That's a little over 2 years to check potentially thousands of aircraft all around the world to make sure this one specific issue is gone for good. Now let's zoom out for a second. Because this one specific case, this one AD, it really gives us a window into something much, much bigger. It's like a perfect little example of the entire philosophy that makes modern aviation so incredibly safe. It all boils down to being proactive versus reactive. See, reactive safety is waiting for an accident to happen and then trying to figure out why. But proactive safety, the system we have now, is all about finding these tiny flaws, these potential problems like improper swaging, and fixing them before they could ever dream of causing a disaster. So an AD like this isn't a sign that flying is dangerous. It's proof of the incredible, constant effort that goes into keeping it safe. Honestly, I think the best way to think about airworthiness directives is that they're the immune system for the entire global airline fleet. They are constantly scanning for threats, identifying them, and then neutralizing them long before they can do any real harm. It's this quiet, relentless process happening in the background all the time. And all this kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? This one document opened up this whole hidden world of investigation and engineering. It really makes you wonder, what other invisible systems, what other safety detective stories are playing out right now, all with that one single goal of making sure every flight we take is as safe as it can possibly be?